Hello, I'm Eddie Bravo, and thank you very much for watching Mastering the Twister. I'll be covering all the dominating positions / scoring positions in the 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu system, including all the transitions and submissions that come from these positions, which I like to call dead zones. The 4 dominating positions, or dead zones, are back control, spider web, the mount, and the truck, and reason you're watching this, the twister. I started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Master Jean-Jacques Machado at the age of 24. But I did wrestle in high school for a couple years, so I came into my first class with a little more base and balance than your average Jiu-Jitsu newbie. I also came into my first Jiu-Jitsu class with one submission hold that I learned in high school wrestling, the wrestler's guillotine, which later became known as the twister. The twister was a very unorthodox wrestling pin. It was also a submission at the same time. I learned it from a kid named Alex Nukuchia. Thank you very much for that. And I got pretty good at it in high school, but I found it very difficult to get on jiu-jitsu players. In wrestling, the only setup for the twister was from back control. And in wrestling, giving your opponent your back is not necessarily a bad thing. But in jiu-jitsu, it's taboo. So it became very difficult to set up the twister. So it became a mission of mine to come up with as many setups to get the twister in these new jiu-jitsu positions. So the 2 years in wrestling, I got really good on one side, got really good at leg riding with my left leg. Once I got my left leg in and leg rode, getting to this position here, not necessarily the finish. Not getting, the goal wasn't to get to the twister as fast as possible. The goal was to get to this control as fast as possible. He would be defending. It's very hard to get right into the twister in this transition. But the goal was to get in this position, and which later became known as the truck. In the truck, controlling your opponent here is very similar to controlling someone's back here. The end is near. He really only has basically one move to worry about here when you're attacking the back, is the rear naked choke. In the truck, we have several different leg locks: calf crank, kamikaze, crotch ripper, banana split, the Raimi here, scissors here, twister. There's a lot going on here in the truck. All right, and we'll go into detail on each one as this progresses. The other dead zones that I discussed before are the mount and spider web. Spider web we'll be covering in depth as well. There's many different submissions here. There's arm crush, arm bar off the arm crush, X break, douchebag, Paulo feel hole, many different submissions from spiderweb. Very important to master as many submissions from spiderweb. Very important to master is the back and the truck. Those are all the dead zones. Very important to be able to transition through all the dead zones. We're in the truck here. If the leg locks aren't happening, the twister's not happening, we transition smoothly to the back. Rear naked choke's not happening, we need to transition smoothly to spiderweb. Spiderweb's not happening, we can go back to the back. And then we transition back to the truck. Very important to be able to transition through all the dead zones. If he's on his back and we're in the mount, very important to transition from. There's spider web here, and then we can go back to the back. Suppose he catches our foot, we go to the back, he gets on all fours, we go to the truck. This is not working, then we go back to the back. He gets on all fours. We swim back to spiderweb. Traditional jiu-jitsu This is regular side control here. Your opponent can do three things. He can turn away from you when someone has him in side control, but that's taboo in jiu-jitsu. He's giving his back, so no one's gonna turn away. There are a couple side control escapes where you do turn your back, and there's a couple different risky moves, but high-level players do it, but generally, you don't wanna give your back in side control. And obviously, you're not gonna just lay on your back and do nothing. So if I'm on top of him, he wants to turn into me and hopefully get his knee inside and put me back in guard, half guard, quarter guard, full guard. So jiu-jitsu law for the guy on the bottom in this position is to do everything in his power to turn into me and get his knee in, hook my leg, recover guard somehow. All he really has to worry about from side control is a Kimura here, maybe an Americana here. If he turns to a side, there's chokes here he has to worry about, darces, guillotines. He's used to dealing with those dangers from traditional jiu-jitsu players. But when you develop twister side control, which is, remember, we're trying to get to the truck. If he was on all fours, and I was in this position, and I was back in 10th grade in high school, I'd want to stick my left leg nice and deep and hook his left leg. So that's the goal in all the setups to get to the truck. How can I hook his left leg with my left leg? Now, he's on his back. If I'm playing twister side control here, which is different than regular side control here, I need to hook his left leg with my left leg. So I want him to do what he's supposed to do. I want him to turn into me. He thinks he's doing the right thing. He's not doing the right thing if the guy on top is a twister master and can hook this up from side control. Because now he's turned into me. Now his left leg is in a position where I can hook his left leg here and then transition into the truck here. Now we're back. A lot of different things could happen in twister side control. He could be pushing you down. You got to keep moving your ass around. There's different things you can do with your base and balance. But the main focus is not having your ass on the ground. Very important. If my ass was on the ground here in twister side control, he could simply just push me down, get my back, or put me back in his guard. You gotta keep moving, stay unstable. He's got both hands on my hips. I'm staying unstable. And if he has his hands fully extended, again, flexibility comes in handy. I can bring my foot all the way through. There's a submission here. Or it just peels his hand off my hip, which is very important. After you do that a couple times, his hands become shorter because for fear of getting caught in a bicep crush here. All right, so remember, we're developing twister side control. I'm sitting on his shoulder. He turns into me here. He decides to challenge my twister side control. Now, the most important thing in twister side control, again, is not having your ass on the ground. From here, my left leg needs to hook his left leg. But if his right leg gets under my left leg here, he can flip the truck on me. Or if his right leg gets under my left leg, he can take my back. So when setting up the transition to the truck from side control, when he turns to his side, I'm gonna be on my left knee, leaning into his body, and my left knee is gonna be on his hip. So I'm gonna be looking like this. I'm leaning on him, my left knee is on his hip, bolted to the ground, nice and heavy. Remember, we can't let him go under us at any time. We're here. my ass is not on the ground. So, as soon as he turns in, my left knee is on his hip, I'm leaning into him, and the most important move in setting up the transition to the truck is the fishnet. And the fishnet is this arm, my right arm, going behind his legs, through his legs, underhooking that bottom leg, his right leg, driving my right elbow to the ground. Once I'm in this position, it's very hard for him to get flat on his back. Because if he turns into me, he might go, oh, he's gonna set up the twister. I'm gonna go right back down. If he's flat on his back, I can't get this leg in the position I need it to be to hook it. So, as soon as he gets to his side, even for a second, you have to dive in with that fishnet. So now he can't go flat on his back, and it's keeping his legs in a position where I can hook him up. And he can't get under me. There's no way that right leg can get under me so that he could flip the truck on me or get my back. It's very important. You don't need the fishnet. You can set it up without the fishnet, just staying heavy on your left knee. You use your right leg to hook that left leg up, and then you can roll. But you're taking a chance. You can do that on guys that you know that aren't very good at the twister or the setups. You don't think he has the skill to flip it on you. But there's more and more twister masters out there, and they're flipping. So for me, anytime I begin to set up the twister, really the first move is establishing a fishnet for me. Once I get to twister side control, I'm controlling him. He gets on his side, even if it's for a second, I'm coming behind him, underhook that leg, now we're in the fishnet. Now the second most important move is the love handle. The love handle keeps him from squirming around. It keeps him in one spot, and the way by hugging his waist, I'm gonna roll him on my knee, which is on his hip. I'm gonna stick my left wrist right above his hip, and now I'm squeezing. Still on my knee, leaning into him, sticking my ass out. Now we're here, I'm squeezing as hard as I can with my left arm, and this fishnet is nice and tight. The goal now, again, it's always been my left leg hooking his left leg. So from here, a lot of people will cross their feet to defend. I'm gonna use my right leg to open everything up. If he crosses feet, I would attack this leg here. He opens it up, and then we fight, and it's a battle. But we're gonna do the first one without him crossing his feet. So we got the fishnet, love hand on his legs just right there. For you beginners, it's very important to be able to do it from here where he's not crossing his feet. That becomes a complex battle that takes a lot more skill. So from here, I'm leaning into him, my chest is pushing up against his hip, my ass is as high as I can go, making sure that he can't straighten out his arms on my back. So my right leg will open up his left leg, nice and wide, not here on the inside, because then that would block my left leg from hooking his left leg. Open up wide, stick my ass in the air still, my left knee is by his hip. Now my left leg hooks his left leg, and then I lock down the leg. Once the leg's locked down, I can remove the love handle, lean forward, keep the fishnet in, put a little gable grip on right here, controlling that leg. He still can't flip it. He still can't get under me because of this fishnet. And then from here, roll right into the truck. Again, that's the most important transition to the truck. The hardest one, yet the most important. Again, mastering it from the back to the truck, do that for a couple years, however long it takes for you to love the truck position, and that will motivate you to master it from twister side control. All right, again, so now we're in twister side control here. It's a good idea to check this outside knee rather, because if you're here, sometimes you can catch a knee to the eye, cut you open. Blocking this knee doesn't stop that knee from smashing your face. But blocking this one blocks both. Real simple. A lot of times, I'm gonna put my head right here on his hip and underhook both legs. Sometimes we're north-south, all depending on how wild he is. It's gonna, twister side control is gonna look crazy. He gets to a side. Fishnet right away. Roll him on top of my knee so I can make room for the love handle. Now I'm squeezing this love handle. I'm still not on my ass, I'm leaning into him. I'm on my knee, staying heavy. My right leg opens up his left leg. I'm on my knee, ass is in the air. Left leg hooks his left leg. I lock it down. Once it's locked down, that's when I remove the love handle. Gable grip here. I'm on both my knees, balancing from here right into the truck. Control the free leg, the toes, the ankle. Figure four here, lock down here. Another great reason to master twister side control is the transition to the back, which again, transitioning to the back is transitioning to the over-under. Learning as many different transitions and setups to the over-under as possible. That is back control for you. So again, learning and mastering the twister side control position here, to get to the back, we're gonna go over a slightly different setup. Instead of sticking the fishnet in and the love handle, which is the safest, sometimes you just grab his ankle here and push it away. You can grab his knee here and push it away. That's also a setup. You don't have to do the safest thing, which is the fishnet. Sometimes I do just grab the calf here at the knee. Sometimes if he's here, I grab the ankle and push it away. And I could open up and set up the grapevine here. And in the roll, I don't have to stop in the truck. There's some guys that are good at setting this up from twister side control, but they don't like the leg locks. They just use this to go straight to the back. Over, under here. Left over, right under. If I was setting up this roll, the ninja roll, from the other side, it would be right over, left under. In this case, it's left over, right under, right front, bypassing the truck, right to the back control. And then from here, we proceed to hand fight and work for the rear naked choke. Again, we're in twister side control, staying unstable. He's trying to push off, he turns to a side. We can pin his bottom leg to the ground, grab his ankle or at the knee. That'll minimize his chances of getting underneath me. Remember, we don't want him to get underneath me. I want that knee on his hip, bolted to the ground. Control this leg. Use the right leg to open up his left leg to feed my left leg. And then from here, we roll, we bypass the truck right to the back. Remember, we're jumping on over-unders. Anytime we get a chance to jump on that over-under and squeeze and become that monkey that he can't get off his back. Naturally, if it's a loose and open over-under, he's just gonna spin out and escape easily. There's no clinch. Real time looks like this. As soon as we set it up, we're controlling him. As soon as we set it up, roll right to the over-under, to the back, to the hand fight, to the rear naked choke. Again, real time. This next submission off twister side control comes halfway in between the transition to the truck. We're in twister side control, and we got the leg hooked up. Either we had the fishnet in with the love handle and we hooked the leg up, or we just hooked it up without a fishnet. We're here. We're halfway through the transition. All I have to do is roll. And I learned this next submission from Gokard Chavichian, who's a leg lock master. And I do this submission in the truck but you can do it without rolling, staying in twister side control. With the leg, still grapevine. From here, all you have to do is just grab this ankle, hook this ankle, and pull it back. Very simple calf crank. We're in side control. We get the legs hooked up. Maybe we don't want to roll into the truck. Maybe he's really good at escaping the truck. But right here, we still have him stuck. All right? There's several ways to do it. You can just grab this ankle, yank it, and pull it. Or you can take it down piece by piece by putting a fishnet in, love handle, open up the legs here. And now, if his legs are really strong, we're gonna have to slowly take it piece by piece. So I'm gonna pull out the love handle, gable grip my hands, and put his right leg on top of my knee. Make sure my left knee's on the bottom, and I'm squeezing here. Now this is the ultimate control. Now once I have this in control, now I'm gonna reach under and then grab, get leverage, and then we attack. Inside control, and in this case twister side control, like I said before, your opponent can do three things. He could turn into you, he can turn away from you, or he could just do nothing. Sometimes your opponent will try to turn away from you, and that's taboo in jiu-jitsu, in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and it is in twister side control as well. But every now and then a guy will make a break for it and give you his back in hopes that he catches you sleeping and he's gonna turn it into an escape. But if he turns away, you follow him and you're in the same spot here. You drive your knee in, either both hands on his ankle, right foot splits his legs and we pull him on top of us, or you're in twister side control. He turns away and we go to D'Souza control, drive the knee into, as far as deep as you, in between his legs, right foot splits his legs, opens them up, and we're here. So either way, if he could turn into you and get on his knees, it's the same thing. If he turns away from you, same thing. It's even easier if he turns away from you. Pull him right back in, right to the truck. And as well as D'Souza control, he turns away, ankle control here, into the truck. Real time, he turns away. When developing your twister side control, a lot of times, the guy on the bottom is gonna challenge your twister side control and your ability to hook up the legs, grapevine the legs, and get to the truck. So he's not too scared of your control here, and he might be able to exploit that and get up to his knees and blast through and possibly get on top. So it's very common when developing your twister side control. And it's also common when your twister side control is fully developed and you're a master of the twister and twister side control, but you're simply just going with someone who is a lot bigger and stronger and a lot more explosive than you, and you can't break him down methodically. The best way to set up a twister here, just complete domination, complete control, you're owning him right into the truck. So when you're first developing twister side control, this next technique, the muffle, is very important to learn. And again, even if you haven't mastered, there's guys that are so big and so strong, you can't just control them and break them down methodically step by step. Fishnet, love handle, it's just not gonna happen. So it's very important to be able to get this transition, and it happens really fast too. So if I'm in twister side control here, we'll do it in slow motion. I can't control him, he gets up to his knees. we have to be able to transition and use that momentum to get right into the truck here. And again, it happens really fast. So this is a very important transition to master. So we're inside control. He blasts up to his knees. I'm going to keep my weight on the small of his back. I'm not going to try to stick my left hook all the way through where it needs to be right here. We don't have time to do that. The most important thing here is ultimately we're going to have to hook his left leg, but we don't have time to do it when he's up in the middle of the transition. All we have time to do is stick our left knee in as deep as possible and to make it so that we could flip our left leg over and hook it during the transition. So again, he's flat on his back. We're always putting weight on him. So as he rolls up, even though we can't control him, my weight's still on him, on the small of his back. I'm shoving my knee in as deep as possible, and we can control his ankles here, or we can control around here. I call this D'Souza control here. We could throw a gable grip here, or a ball and socket here. All my weight's on the small of his back. My knee is as deep as possible, and my right leg, just like if he was on his side and we were dominating him and setting this up methodically, we would still use our right leg to open up his left leg, to feed our left leg. Same thing, but we're just at a different angle. He's up on his knees. So he blasts it up to his knees. We're gonna use that momentum. We're not stopping him, we're going with it. We're just controlling it. That right leg opens up its legs, and in the transition, we flip and get that left leg in right to the truck. If the muffle gets stuffed halfway through, we're here, he blasts up to his knees, and he feels the transition, and I can't pull him on top of me, he stuffs me, we just take the path of least resistance. We instantly change our base, let go of D'Souza control, grab his ankle with the left hand, base out on the mat with your right hand, and we simply roll the other way. Roll over your left shoulder. If you can't force him on top of you to roll into the truck, you go the other way. If you can't force him the other way, then you pull him on top of you. The muffle gets stuffed halfway through, pull him on top, remove D'Souza, roll forward. We're not rolling into his hip here. We're rolling towards his legs. It's a lot easier. Grab the ankle, base out, and in the roll, I open up his legs and I lace him up. One more time. We got some twister side control. He rolls up. The best and safest way to transition to the truck is with the fishnet, but unfortunately, the fishnet isn't always possible. If he doesn't expose the fishnet here by getting on his side for just 1 second, I'm not gonna be able to get that fishnet in. And again, you don't have to set up the transition to the truck with the fishnet. It's just a lot riskier. The best way is with the fishnet. Sometimes you gotta take different routes though. Can't get the fishnet in. This one's called the hog tie. In this transition, we can't get him from being flat on his back. So we have to do some careful maneuvering of his feet. The first step here, after I establish a good twister side control, is trapping his right ankle with your right hand. Squeezing it, trapping it into his butt, and with your left hand, reach around and grab the toes. So we're trapping his foot into his ass. And then from here, I let go of the ankle, swing all the way around, and grab his ankle from the top and pull up his leg. At this point, we can gable grip around his ankle here. Sometimes we could just hold on to his toes here, keeping him on his side long enough to open up his legs I get up on my knee. All my weight is on my knee. And then we can roll here into the truck. The pry bar is a technique that requires a lot of flexibility, leg dexterity, and a mastery of twister side control. Now, once I have the fishnet in, love handle, we're ready to go. I'm on my knee. My knee is, my body's leaning into his body, putting all my weight on him. My chest is smashing his hip. It would be nice if his feet weren't crossed. Then, if his feet weren't crossed, like we just did, it's a lot easier to hook the leg up. But if his feet are crossed, you're gonna need some flexibility and some leg dexterity. We can do two different things. We can hook the left foot, and power through. Sometimes that works, depending on how tight his figure four is. What I like to do is hook the leg I don't want, the right leg, the one that is not gonna be grapevine. That way, he feels that leg's in danger. He opens up his leg, he kicks that free, and then I tricked him into opening up his legs. Then we're back to grapevining the legs, removing the love handle, establishing total domination and control here, and rolling to the truck. The Wild Beast is very similar to the muffle, but the grip is a little different and the angle is a little different. In the muffle, your opponent was able to get up on his knees. In the Wild Beast, he's turning to his side and sprawling, and you're able to keep him down. So we're still in side control here. When he turns to his side, he's not getting up to his knees. And if I can sprawl out on him and keep him down, I like to go for an S grip here because there's no space if he's up on his knees, in the muffle, I could have a ball and socket, I can go gable grip here. But if he's sprawled out, and I'm sprawled out here, the grip is an S grip here. You can barely get this through. It's very important when trying to control guys that are a lot bigger and stronger than you. The control is here, and then when he slowly gets up to his knees, that's when we hook everything up. Hook up everything right there with the S grip. Then once we're here, again, it's the path of least resistance. If he gets up to his knees further and we pull him on top of us, the leg's already laced. Or if I can't pull him on top of me, we just roll and the leg's already laced. He blasts up, but he's not able to get to his knees. And I'm sprawled out, and I have my chin on his butt and my chest on his hip. I'm keeping him down here, and we're squeezing the hell out of him, and my hand's in an S grip. If we can control him here, I want to open up his legs and lace him all up in this control before we roll. Squeezing as tight as possible around his hip in the S grip. And if he continues to get up on his knees, then we can pull him on top of us. Or if you can't pull him on top, then we roll over our shoulder. My master, Jean-Jacques Machado, showed me this next submission from twister side control. He would watch my game, watch me in twister side control day after day, and he noticed that my opponents were sticking their arm through my legs here and causing some disruption. And he told me that there's an arm bar there, and this is the arm bar. He said if I grabbed his wrist, pulled it up so that I got over the elbow, and then triangled my legs and squoze my knees together, that there's an arm bar. And 99.999% of the things Jean-Jacques has ever suggested or told me or helped me out with my game, I take it as gospel. Like I said, 99.9999% of the time, I never doubted it. But since he wasn't a big twister side control player, I kind of doubted it. I was like, he said the arm bar was there, but it wasn't like anything was in his game. So I actually doubted it until after a while, I kept seeing the arm there and I kept trying it, and I realized that he was right, like he always is. And it's a legit move. So when we're working on setting up the transition to the truck here, A lot of different things can happen. Like I said before, he could both hands push off on my hips, and that's no good. I gotta stay unstable and keep pushing back. Gotta make it so that he can't stretch his arms completely, and you gotta stay unstable. And if he's pushing off on the hips here, stay unstable, he might stick his arm through my legs here. Anytime he sticks the arms through the legs, there's an opportunity for a baby arm. I'm gonna grab his wrist, post off on the mat here, elevate, and squeeze. Just get just above his elbow here, put your weight down, and here's an armbar. Another submission off twister side control is the twist truck, which is basically a triangle off twister side control. If his arm is between your legs from the back here, there is a possibility that you can get a triangle. It's risky, you lose top position, but for you risk takers out there, all you need to do is pull that wrist up as high as you can. You're in a position for a baby arm, or you can roll, swing back, and catch him in a triangle. Very risky move, but sometimes you want to have some fun and get crazy with it. Again, we're in twister side control here. His arm can be here, his arm could be here, his arm could be here. You do different things. His arm's between your legs here. We can go to the baby arm, or we can roll, pull on the wrist, and hit that triangle. This submission from twister side control is one of my favorites. It's a very common submission that I end up pulling off. In twister side control, as we're trying to set the legs up to transition into the truck, a lot of times my opponent will sneak his arm through. Perfect twister side control would be that both his arms were behind me. If he gets his arm through, and I could snatch his hand here, this hand is anywhere in this location where I could snatch it and pin it to the ground. I'm not grabbing his wrist, I'm grabbing his hand. It's a lot better control. If I grab his wrist, I can work to get the Kimura, but he has more power in escaping. If I bring his wrist into the mix by grabbing his hand, now his wrist is the weak point. A lot easier to control his hand. I can hit the regular Kimura from here. I could snatch his hand down, then transition to the wrist and hit the traditional Kimura here. But my personal favorite is the inverted Kimura. Snatch his hand, we're here, we're battling the legs. We're able to snatch his hand. We climb his hand all the way up as far as you can go. And from this position, I like to jump back into half guard. I'm so confident with this that I'll give up half guard. And in order to finish the inverted Kimura from side control, you have to jump back in half guard. It's actually to control his body. So when I control his hand and I bring it as high as possible, then I shift to his wrist, slide down, and bring the thumb up. My left hand grabs my forearm. I'm smashing his jaw with my chest, putting all my weight on him so that he can't get his right arm through. If he got his right arm through, it could cause a lot of problems, and we might have to transition to something else. So I'm hooking, I jump back into half guard to control his body, to keep him flat, drag his hand all the way up. Now I'm grabbing the wrist, I bring the thumb up, and now we're gonna twist it. We're gonna crank it, and we're gonna bend his arm down. Twisting, cranking, all the way down. The Darce is a very popular choke in today's no-gi grappling scene. It burst onto the scene in the early 2000s and just engulfed the grappling scene. If you don't know what a Darce is, by now, you're far behind in the jiu-jitsu. And off twister side control, as we're trying to set up a transition to the truck, the Darces also present themselves, especially if your opponent gets his left underhook in If it's right here, we're gonna work for that inverted Kimura. But if it's all the way on the inside and he's tight and he rolls to a side, if we can't hook these legs up, we can always spin in, grab a flying vice grip here. Once we have this, we're halfway to the darts. We crank his neck as much as we can. Got a nice vice grip here. We can palm the back of his head, shoving your bottom arm even further through until the point where we can get a nice figure four, and then we squeeze, driving our right wrist up into his neck, squeezing the elbows together, either sprawl, or you could hook the top leg here. Traditional darts. Again, we're in twister side control. Trying to hog tie, trying to fishnet him. Maybe he's on his side already, but his feet are crossed and you can't even get that fishnet in. You're stuck here. He gets the left underhook in. Remember, if it's back here, we could always go for the inverted darts or inverted Kimura. Once he has this underhook established, there's a chance to spin into a vice grip here. Once we have this vice grip, we're halfway home with the darts. From here, we're constantly applying shoulder pressure, trying to keep him on his side, trying to crank the vice grip, the three-quarter Nelson as it's known in wrestling, trying to crank his chin into his chest. We must develop a strong vice grip here. We can palm the back of his head to bend his neck even more. We need to make room. We need to bend his neck and make enough room to cinch in the figure four. Once we're here, we drive our right wrist up and squeeze into his neck. We can also hook the top leg for the darts. This next submission off twister side control is one of my favorite submissions. It's the arm triangle, and which you can set up from the bottom and half guard, from the mount, but you could also set it up from twister side control, depending on where your opponent is putting his left arm or driving his left arm to. I'm in twister side control, looking to hook up the legs. He drives his left arm in, all the way on the inside, and he's T-Rexing. His arm is T-Rexed. He's not underhooking me. If he was underhooking me, I could swing back for a vice grip, and hopefully that ends in the dars, or the Kimuras. If his hand's on the inside here and it's T-Rexed, here's an opportunity for me to swing my arm all the way through as I drive my left arm all the way around his head, and we're setting up for an arm triangle. And at this point, he could try to put me back in half guard. We're holding this gable grip here. This is the chopping block. My head's on the ground. It's the step before the actual finish, the arm triangle. So the goal is, however we get there, is to pass and get on his left side, knee on the belly. My right leg is in a track stance, and then we're in an arm triangle position here. I extend my leg and twist him, and I'm twisting downwards, counterclockwise, in the figure four position here. My left knee is never on the ground. It's in a track stance, driving all my weight into his neck, twisting down counterclockwise, and stretching his body with my legs, straightening out my leg. Again, I'm in twister side control here. He gets on his side, doesn't have the underhook in. If I could swing my arm all the way through, I have a chance to dive on his head, wrap my left arm around his completely around his head, gable grip, pass to his left side. We can stay here in the chopping block, rest, wear him out, and then when you're ready to go, knee on the belly, right foot in a track stance, figure four, twist down into his right shoulder clockwise and straighten out my left leg. One of the best reasons to develop twister side control is not only does it get you in a whole new dimension into the truck and all the different submissions from the truck and the transitions, but also it's easier to mount from twister side control. It's a lot easier from regular side control. We gotta get our knee up to the hip, slide it across the belly, but if he's super hyper conscious about it, he's gonna keep his leg up. That's the normal thing to do. It's hard for me to slide my knee through. But at this angle, at the twister side control angle, if he's blocking, it's a lot easier if you have the correct flexibility to mount. So you're going, you're trying to set up the whole truck dimension, but we decide to mount here. It's blocking. I mean, he's got his knee all the way up. But as long as I have the proper flexibility, I'm grabbing my toes, bringing it through into the mount. Another transition off twister side control. Getting to the mount, it's a little different than the tiptoe mount. It's when you have your opponent in side control, he's got his legs together squeezing tight. You can't get anything in there. You can't get your fishnet in there. You can't pry anything open. But what you can do is, in your attempt to pry something open to hook up the transition to the truck, if it doesn't work, you can always just hook and mount off a failed grapevine attempt. So we're in twister side control, he's on his side, we can't pry anything open, we're messing with his ankles, nothing's working. We just overshoot, hook, spin, squeeze the leg together, and now we're in the mount. One more time. Twister side control, strong legs, nothing's working, hog tie's not working. We try to pry, it's not working. We overshoot and hook both the legs, end up in the mount in skydive. This transition to the truck actually begins in the truck. Very important transition. A lot of times you'll find yourself in the truck, and remember, like I said before, you must always control your opponent's free leg or free arm so that he can't spin to freedom. If he spins, he gets on top, he's in top side half. You were in scoring position, you were on the 10-yard line, that's an interception return for 50 yards. All right, so you must maintain control. But sometimes you're gonna lose it either way. If you're not controlling the toes here and you're controlling the ankles, it allows him to kick his leg free, giving him a split second to spin. You roll up with him here, because he's gone, you have a choice to make. Follow him and try to take us back, which is the natural thing to do. It's like, oh, he's escaping, he's spinning, I gotta follow him. And what happens is you're gonna be too late, he spins all the way through, and then you end up losing the position. The correct thing to do, and again, that's the natural thing to do. You're losing your opponent, you're chasing his back. You have to change those instincts though. If you're here and he kicks free and you lose control and he spins, you gotta reset. Don't go after him here, go away from him, and it's just like the muffle, just like the wrestler here. With the ankle already, with the leg fully hooked. So you're good. You just have to remember to roll and you're back here. Now you're gonna hold that free foot a little tighter. This submission from the truck is probably the most common submission in the truck and is definitely one of my go-tos. It's the calf crank. It's quite simple, but to do a perfect calf crank, there's just a few things that you have to make sure you're doing. And anytime you're we're cranking this leg here. This is the leg we're attacking. There's a big difference between grabbing the instep and pulling down, grabbing the ankle, and putting your thumb over his toes and crank. Big difference. Grabbing the toes here is the most effective. Hard for him to put a boot on and power through. He wants to keep his legs straight. If he keeps his legs straight, I can't grab that calf crank at all. So you manage to grab his foot, and you don't grab it at the toes. You grab his foot, but so what? He puts on the boot and straightens out his leg. So a perfect calf crank would be controlling his toes here, and we're controlling his other foot here as well. We're not attacking with both arms here, because you could get armbarred here. Happened in a pro MMA fight in Japan. So you want to control this leg as well anyways, because if you're here, he could just stomp through that. He could grab an armbar or stomp through this and you lose the leg anyways. So basically this is a savior. You want to take a savior out of the mix. Same thing. If you control at the instep, he puts a boot on, straightens out his leg. Of course, controlling the ankle is even worse. Perfect calf crank. Anytime you practice the calf crank, make sure you do it perfectly. Thumb over the toe, not like this. Coming from the outside. And the final touch is stomping your ankle with your foot, driving your left shin into the back of his left knee. And that's where all the pressure comes from. This is not perfect. That's not perfect. This is not perfect. Although it could work, you don't necessarily need to stomp on your foot. It just adds maximum pressure. You can finish like this, no problem. This is the best. When you're practicing, when you're drilling, make sure it's perfect. It's really simple. This submission from the truck is related to the calf crank. Calf crank is here. Usually this is enough pressure to make him tap. Some guys resist the pain. Some guys have stronger legs than others. So sometimes you need to resort to the kamikaze calf crank, which is the ultimate in pressure. Taking your right foot, instead of stomping it on your own ankle, you're gonna bring it through the inside as deep as you can, all the way around his ankle, and your left toes grab onto your shin and twist it. Again, we're here in the truck. We're able to grab that calf crank here. It's not enough. He's really strong. We're gonna base my right leg all the way through as far as you can go, over his ankle. And the key is grabbing onto your left shin, or with your right shin, with your left toes, and squeezing and twisting. Straightening out, tiptoeing your left foot. In the truck, there's two flexibility testing submissions that are available for you. There's the old school high school wrestling banana split, which stretches this leg that way, which we'll get to in another segment. And there's the crotch ripper, which takes the leg in the complete opposite way. His left leg is stretched exactly the same way. It's going that way. This leg is either stretched this way or that way. This way is the crotch ripper. Now, you can do the crotch ripper with your head on the inside or your head on the outside. It doesn't matter. I prefer on the inside if I'm setting it up from the truck. We could also set it up right off the twister roll, and we'll get to that in another segment. But if I'm here in the truck, and I wrap my left arm all the way around his right leg, nice and deep, just above his kneecap. We don't want to be down here. We don't want to be on his shin. Just above the kneecap, as deep as I can go. Nice gable grip. We're bear hugging his leg. We're stretching it this way. And the final touch is taking your lockdown leg, your right leg, turning it into like a karate side kick and stretching it out as I pull and yank. This move doesn't work that well with women, but about 80% of men can't take this when done properly. So we're in the truck here, controlling his free leg or his free arm, trying to go for a calf crank, trying to make something happen. We wrap around his leg here, nice and tight. Gable grip. Side kick his Achilles tendon and stretch. If it's your opponent's flexibility you want to test, you can apply or attempt a crotch ripper. If you can't get that crotch ripper, if you can't pull his legs forward because he has his leg cocked back here, then we just take the path of least resistance. Now we got to stick our left arm as deep as possible, deep behind his knee. We're going to take his leg that way for the banana split. Once you got that left hook nice and deep, I'm going to put my hands in an S grip, make a little hoop, side kick his far Achilles to stretch him out, and pull my arm back behind my head. Again, we're in the truck here. Calf crank's not working. I can't pull his leg forward towards me for the crotch ripper. He's got his leg cocked back. Now we got to bring our left arm all the way through as deep as possible. My forearm, my left arm is in back of his knee, behind his knee. S grip here. Side kick his far Achilles and pull my arms back behind my head like I'm pushing my head through the hoop and stretch. And I'm driving my left hip into his body. From day one of the truck, I've been trying to figure out the submission on this free leg. And in Mastering the Twister, the book, the submission I was hoping that would pan out was the wheelchair. It's like an ankle lock here. It works when the guy's not resisting, but I haven't had very much success with it over the last few years. So the 10th Planet system is constantly adding techniques, and techniques don't end up panning out. I'll pull them out. I won't hesitate. Not all techniques are going to pan out. I was hoping the wheelchair would. But Eric Ramey, one of my students, came up with the ultimate submission on this free leg. And I'm calling it the Ramey, and it works very well. When you're going for a calf crank, it's not working, crotch ripper's not working, but you can get, if you can grab his ankle and put it right on your neck and hold it here, if you gable grip on the side of his knee here and keep your neck tight, stretch the lockdown and pull down, it's a nasty leg lock here. Eric Ramey finally figured out what to do with this damn leg here. The granddaddy of them all, the number one submission from the truck is the twister. That's what it was all about. That's what all this spawned from. And the twister really is just getting his arm behind my head and cranking on his neck here. But to get his body in this position, there's some steps that need to be taken, but this is the ultimate goal, all right? The first step from the truck is we're trying to get that arm around our body. So the way he's going to defend that is by keeping a nice tight T-Rex in a grip. If I can't break this grip, if I can't open up his arms, there's no way I'm going to be able to get that arm around my head. So we want to avoid this grip. We want to snatch this arm away from his other hand so he can't put a grip and get into baseball bat control. We want to keep his hands separate. If we can't keep his hands separate and he's got a grip and I still manage to get the underhook, then we go to the bolt cutter. That's coming up. But the bolt cutter is last resort if we couldn't get to baseball bat control here. Baseball bat control is like I'm batting left-handed. I'm controlling his wrist like I'd be controlling a bat, batting left-handed, and driving my elbow into his armpit. And the way we get here, the most efficient way is with the snatch. So this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be attacking his legs. If I can get a calf crank, forget about the twister. If I can get a crotch ripper, forget about the twister. We're attacking his legs. If we can't get any of these submissions, these leg submissions, we can't get the Ramey or anything, then we start thinking about the twister. And the very first move towards this arm, that's the arm we have to control to get the baseball bat control. That's the initial goal, is to get the baseball bat control. So the first step, it's either got to be hooking with my left arm or attacking with my right arm. There's got to be a first step. The first step is my right hand snatching his right hand, pulling it away from his left hand into baseball bat control. So we're snatching that hand into baseball bat control. The first goal, getting here. We're not trying to grab that arm and pull it over our head and attack the head and do it all in one motion. We got to break it down piece by piece, methodically. All right, so the way you snatch that hand without him putting a grip together is you gotta fool him. You gotta make him think that you really want his legs. You want to attack these legs. If he smells it out that you're just messing with the legs to snatch that hand to baseball bat control, he's gonna stay real tight and he's gonna hide that arm and you're not gonna get anywhere. You can't get his legs, you can't snatch the baseball bat. Then you have to transition to the back at that point. You have to make a decision. So I'm not looking at that hand, I'm committing to these legs here. I'm trying to go, I'll even stick my arm in for a banana split attempt just to get his hand in this area where I can see him, where this hand can attack and snatch. Now we're at baseball bat. Sometimes it's down here or whatever. I'm twisting his ankles, just doing crazy things to the ankle. If it's right there, I'm gonna snatch it right to baseball bat. And if I see someone snatch to baseball bat and immediately bring the arm over the head, I think he's a rookie. The goal is, remember, to get the baseball bat and relax. He's gonna be at his most explosive at this point. He's gonna be trying to get that hand back. You're gonna be pulling away, you're gonna be fighting him. You wanna discourage him, you wanna tire him out, because after this, there's 3 basic steps, all right, from baseball bat control. Here we are in the truck again. Calf crank's not working, quad trip or banana split. Nothing seems to be working with the legs. He's either too flexible and or just too strong. So we're looking to transition to the twister. The goal is to bypass dealing with his grip by snatching that right hand right to baseball bat. But sometimes the snatch doesn't work and we end up attacking with the left arm first, left underhook, giving him time to put his grip together. Now there's 2 basic ways to break this free. Now from here, if he's tired and he's gassing and he doesn't have a tight grip here, I can, especially if he has a gable grip like the other way. He has a gable grip like this. This is when the palm strike works. He's sweaty, he's tired, we got this grip. If we get him with a good palm strike here and push that hand away, and then we blast to a baseball bat, that can work. We're here. If his grip is the other way, it can work as well, but it's better when you can attack his whole hand here and blast that whole hand out. Again, it can work the other way as well, but if his hand's in the way, you don't get a good clear shot of his hand. So again, if we're here, snatch didn't work, we messed up, we attacked with our left arm first, giving him time to put that grip. If he's tired and greasy, and you can slam that hand away, right to baseball bat, that's beautiful. Now, if he's not tired and he's got a good grip and maybe he's doing a ball and socket grip here, or even the other way, yes, if he's here, this is gonna be hard to palm strike away. And he's got a good grip, so then we go to something else, which is called the bolt cutter. And the way you do the bolt cutter is, initially your left hook is as deep as possible, and you pull it out just a little bit. You don't pull it out all the way, just a little bit, just enough to make some room for your right arm. Now I bring my right arm all the way down. So my left arm is going up, my right arm is going down, and my right arm is closer to me. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drive my left elbow into his ribs, just to loosen him up just a little bit. And then I'm gonna drive my right elbow down to my hip, not into me, down. The right elbow goes down to my hip, I arch my back, but before I do that, I drive the point of my elbow into his ribs just to loosen him up. He's got a pretty good grip. I drive, he's got a pretty good grip. Now I'm gonna bring put pressure on his right wrist downward into my hip. and transition to baseball bat from there. Again, we're here. Iron palm is not working. He's got a really good grip. So I'm just gonna release, make some room for this arm by bringing this elbow out just a little bit. Stick my hand in as deep as possible. And as I drive my left elbow into his ribs just to loosen him up a little bit, I'm applying pressure downward into his right wrist, down to my hip, and I'm arching back right into baseball bat. Okay, now we're at baseball bat control, but maybe we tried to finish him with the twister before, and his twister defense is just too good. We can't get to steps 2 or 3, but we can get to step 1. We have options. We get to step 1 here. If we could sit up and wrap around his arm, we have an inverted armbar here, which I call the scissors. Again, we're at baseball bat control. We know this guy's a beast. Every time we try to, I have a student that once I get to step 1 and try to rock him to 2, he just keeps peeling that off. I can't battle, he controls my wrist here. I can't shake this wrist. There's just no way to get to 3. So from here, if we're stuck, we can just wrap around the arm here and hit that inverted armbar. One more time. 1. We're in baseball bat control. We get to 1. We might get to 2. He stops 3. He has incredible grip strength. You can't get past him. So we slide up, hook the arm. We want to make sure we're just above the elbow. Ball and socket. And we'll hit the armbar. It's not as dramatic looking as the twister, but it's very effective. Another option for when you can't get the twister, those final 2 steps are just too hard and you're always missing it. The guy's just too strong. His twister defense is just too good. There's a wrist lock on step 1. So we're here at baseball bat control. We bring the arm over our head. And just like in the Swedish twister, we're controlling his right wrist with our left hand. And the wrist lock is here with the right hand. Just slowly control and just smash it down. Again, we're at 1. We're at 1 here. We're controlling the wrist, and we know the rock's not working, we can't get to 2, or maybe we can get to 2, but we can't get past 3 to finish the twister. Easy submission right here. Control that wrist, dominate that right wrist with your left hand. With your right hand, smash for the wrist lock. Now that we've achieved our first goal, baseball bat control, remember, if you stay in baseball bat control and wear them down for 30 seconds to a minute, that's good. That's not bad. Going into step 1 of the final 3 steps too soon, that's not good. From baseball bat, there's only 3 steps. 1, 2, which we want to rock to 2, and then 3, putting our hands together and cranking the neck. And there's wars for every step that you have to win to advance to the next step. And not only do you have to battle him on each step, but there's a war going down in the legs. He's trying to survive long enough using his left hand to defend steps 2 and 3. He's trying to ward me off as long as possible while he battles and tries to pry open his leg. Because if he could escape this leg here, and then he's out. So while I'm battling for the final 3 steps, I have to maintain control. I'm doing 2 things at once. He's doing 2 things at once. If he knows what he's doing in this position, he knows how to defend properly. He's trying to delay the final 3 steps as much as possible to free his leg. With his free leg here, he's going to be breaking it open. He's going to be trying everything. What I'm
My defense is keeping my knees squeezed nice and tight, my legs nice and tight, rotating from a lockdown to a figure four, squeezing the legs tight. He opens it up. He's able to pry it open with his free leg. We bring it back, we pummel through, constant battle down there. While I go through the 3 steps. The first of the 3 steps, he can't really stop. There is a window for him to pull his arm out, but as long as we do it as fast as we can and keep both hands on that wrist in control, he just has a split-second window to pull out. I do have a student who times it beautifully and does get out. So there is a little window when we go to step 1. Right here, I'm not as strong at controlling his arm as I am right here. So if he times it perfect, he can yank out and spin. Right there, yanks out and spins and goes. And then we lose him. So as we take our time in baseball bat control, we frustrate him, let him get tired. He's shaking, he's thrashing around. Once he decides to conserve some energy, that's when we attack. So 1 would be here. Now I'm driving my head to the mat, so his head, so if I didn't even have his wrist, I can still control his head with, or his arm with my head. But we add extra protection by keeping our wrist, our hands on his wrist. We can do it with 1 arm here, which we'll have to eventually to get to step 2. But initially we could just hold on and control here. He might try to use this arm to hook my forearm here and just control here. Just control right there. He might try to pull that apart and control the arm. If he can control it, now he can't do anything here. You gotta be able to break free. Now, we're trying to crank his neck, so we need our arms over here. So, at this angle, it's hard to get my arm under his neck. So, it's easier to lift his body up and then swing my arm around and then place his body back down on my arm. That's the easiest thing to do. So with both hands on his wrist and with this lockdown and full force, I'm gonna swing, whip up my lockdown and pull him on top of me. And from here, I'm gonna lay him back down. He has no way to block my arm. If I didn't rock him, he could just block my arm right here. It's hard to get to step 2. It's a battle to get to step 2. My bad angle and his hand is in a position to defend. But if we rock him up and we have a solid hip control with our lockdown, we whip him up here. He appears to be in a safer spot here, but he really isn't. As long as I have this lockdown here, he's in no position to do anything offensively. Now he can't block this hand. He can't reach this hand. I swing it all the way around and I place it under his neck and I grab it. And if I stay here too long, he's gonna peel that hand off my neck. So as soon as I rock him to 2, I show him 3, or else he's gonna peel 2 off. So now he has to battle 3. Now here's the final battle. He's grabbing my wrist. So it turns into a Wing Chun match here. It's like Hapkido, Aikido, it's all that stuff you learn in your first year of karate. This is where it all pays off. He grabbing your wrist, you just swivel and turn on the inside. Now, he could win 50 battles here. All you need to do is win 1. You win 1, and you go from controlling his neck here nice and tight, just to control his upper body, so that he doesn't slip his arm out. He could limp arm out if it's not tight enough. So while we're battling for 3, I'm just clinching him here. But when we're ready to attack, this hand flares out, palm facing out, and I catch an S-grip right here. That's where the pressure is on his neck. If we just start pulling right here, it's not that much pressure. He's not gonna attack from this. Some people might. This is where the pressure is. So we're at baseball bat, settle him down, hang out here 15, 20, 30 seconds, a minute, frustrate him, that we quickly get to step 2, or step 1 rather. And then from 1, we rock him up, swing our left arm around, place him on 2 and show him 3. Now he's defending 3. We're battling here, this can take a while. He's gonna be grabbing. A lot of Wing Chun here. And then we finish at the end, remember, controlling the neck here, nice and tight, avoiding
his limp arm, minimizing his limp arm, clinching. And then when we finally bust through, right here, that's the end. That's the twister. Now that we've gotten to the first goal in the twister, the first mission's accomplished. We got to baseball bat control. We either got there with the snatch or the bolt cutter or the iron palm. Now, once we're at baseball bat control, you want to make sure and wear your opponent out in baseball bat control. He's going to be thrashing, he's going to be trying to explode out, and he's going to be trying to break that lockdown apart with his free leg. You must keep your knees squeezing tight together, keep that lockdown pumped, or you can just keep a figure four and keep your knees squeezing together at the whole time. While we're battling the final 3 steps after baseball bat, we have to maintain control of his legs here. He's going to be trying to slow down the final 3 steps as much as possible, giving him enough time to break that lockdown free and escape. Because once that leg control is gone, this twister is gone. So after we broke him down, we broke his spirits, broke his soul, calmed him down, weakened him a bit. Now we're ready to attack with the final 3 steps. The final 3 steps are 1, arm over the head, under the body. 2, control his neck. 3, put your hands together to crank. All right, but it's never that easy. Every step is a battle, except for the first step is not so much of a battle. The first step, he's not really battling, but I am leaving a window open when I bring the arm over my head where he can yank out right here. I'm not as powerful. Yank out and spin free. And he's gone. So that's why we like to wait. We like to time it perfectly. Because once my head is back against the ground, pinned to the ground, then you can't pull it out. Now we have total control of him here. That's step 1. Step 1 is hard for him to stop. Step 2, he can delay with his left hand, especially at this angle. It's hard for me to get around his neck, and he's got his left hand defending. It's going to be very, very hard to get this left hand under. Defend. You're going to be in a battle like this. It's just not a good angle. So the best thing to do is to use your lockdown, pick his body up, whip him up towards you, pull him on top of you. He feels a sense of freedom here, but as long as you have the lockdown still in it, he's really not going anywhere. Now I'm going to lay him back down. He can't block 2 anymore. Now he can't block 2. Now I'm controlling his neck. And the goal here is to make sure this is nice and tight, and we're prepping him for the final crank here. Now this is where the battle is going to be taking place. He's still going to be trying to break his legs free, so this whole time, from step 1 to step 2, you got to keep, you got to be hyper aware of your leg situation. You got to make sure your lockdown is super tight, or figure 4 with your leg squeezing. Now he's going to be trying to delay the gripping of your hands, so this turns into the Wing Chun battle here. He grabs to the outside, even with his thumb. We swing to the inside. It could take, he could win a bunch of, but he might be able to grab it and pin it down, and his grip strength is just too strong for you. And then he pulls out his arm. If we're too loose here, he can limp arm out of that, and then he spins free. So we must keep a clincher on his neck. But once we get through, if you keep the grip here, this is not really going to tap him. You got to be able to keep the control here, but open up your grip to an S grip here for the finish. Most people won't tap here. Most people do tap here, but the ones that don't tap here, you have to give them DEFCON 4, which is a rear naked choke hold, or a figure 4 up here. Most people will tap to that. This gets most people. This pretty much gets the rest. But you only do that when the guy's resisting, all right? Be nice at first with the escort. This should be enough most of the time. All right, so one more time. We finally got to baseball bat control. He can't get his grip together. He's in deep trouble. We got 1. We're gonna rock him to 2. And we gotta give him 3 before he has a chance to peel off 2. Because if we rock him back down and we just sit here, he's gonna peel 2 off. And then we gotta start all over. Then we gotta rock him again. So when we lay him down, we're already showing him 3. If he tries to peel off 2 and 3's here, he's done. We can also grip him like this too. This. And if you don't like him, DEFCON 4. Now that we got to the first mission, which is baseball bat control, we wore him out. We're here for 15, 20, 30 seconds, even a minute, wear him out. He can't seem to pry this lockdown open. Now, there's an alternative path to the twister that's a little different than the final 3 steps. This is the Swedish twister, which was taught to me by one of my Swedish students in Sweden while I was teaching a seminar, who actually learned it from one of my American students. So it was a weird circle there, but very powerful, and high percentage, and I use this often. So the first step is the same step as the final 3 steps. Number 1, arm over the head. Now we're here, we're controlling him, and instead of rocking him to 2, we're gonna control his right wrist with our left hand and bring our right hand through the hoop that's created right here on the inside. We bring it through, all the way through. Now I'm gonna sit up and drag that wrist down to my hip. Switch hands. Now I'm controlling here. Now it's hard to tell from the camera, but there's a lot more pressure on his spine. He's twisting a lot more, and all the pressure that I'm putting on his right arm is really twisting this up. You can really do some damage here with elbows in MMA, but it just makes the twister a lot easier. Harder for him to defend. He just wants out here. I can finish it with 1 arm, and again, we can just crank it the traditional way. The secret to that one is the pressure that I'm putting on the top of his right shoulder and his arm. Again, we're in baseball bat control. We're in no rush to get to 1. We would like him worn out first, discouraged. We want a soul broken before we start to attack. It's always easier to finish someone when they're beat down, tired, and their confidence has been broken. So we don't want to get to one too quick when he's fresh and explosive. So when we hit 1, instead of rocking to 2 like we would in the final 3 steps, we're controlling his right wrist with our left hand, swinging the right arm through, sitting up and pulling that wrist down, switching control. Now I'm controlling with my right hand. Now as I lay down and put the lockdown on, a lot of times guys will just tap from this alone. It's a lot of pressure. You can do a lot of damage here to the liver, and it's so much easier to get to the twister. So much pressure in here that it's hard for him to defend with that 1 arm. One more time. Baseball bat. 1. When transitioning from the truck to back control, again, which is the over-under, that's what we're always looking for, the leg attacks weren't working. He's got oak trees for legs. He's super flexible, it's not happening, and he's super hip to the snatch. He's not letting me have anything. You have to be smooth in transitioning to or from the truck to the back. Now, the first step in transitioning from the truck to the twister, the best step would be right hand attacking his right hand to baseball bat. When transitioning to the back, the first step, remember, if we lose control of his right leg or his free right arm, he just spins to safety. So that's what we always got to be hypersensitive to. All right. So if we know we can't get the snatch, then the first move is not going to be right hand to his right hand. The first move is going to be right hand to his shoulder. We're going to underhook his shoulder. We could just sneak it in. We might not be able to reach his right hand,
But if we could sneak in and grab his shoulder, that prevents him from spinning free. Once we're there, then he can't stop the left over. We grab the over under, and now we're on the back. Anaconda, hand fight, choke. Again, when transitioning from the truck to baseball bat, it's right hand makes the first move. On his right hand, we pull it free. When we're transitioning to the back, he's hiding that right hand. We got to be able to get that right hand hooking his right shoulder. Now he can't spin. Can't spin to freedom. It's going to be hard to stop that left over. Now we put both hooks in. Anaconda, hand fight, choke. Also from this position, if you can't get the anaconda and the hand fight's difficult, if you can hook his right arm with your right leg, Joe Dirksen did that in the UFC. He was the first one, so I call this the Dirksen. That makes the rear naked choke a lot easier as well. BJ Penn does that as well, and he's becoming very popular around the world. But the first to do it in the UFC was Joe Dirksen, so to me that's been the Dirksen. Again, we're in the truck, we're transitioning to the back, sneak that right hand in, hook his right shoulder, get the over under. We got the hooks in, we're hand fighting, can't really get the anaconda. So we use our right leg to hook his right arm, get it out of the mix, and stick the rear naked choke in. As a purple belt, I was hitting most transitions to the truck quite smoothly. As a matter of fact, the twister was such a big part of my game that my mount and back control suffered. Once I realized this, I decided to fix these holes in my game. So first I focused on back control and rear naked choke. With the help of my master, Jean-Jacques Machado, we put together what we feel are the best and most effective steps in mastering back control and the rear naked choke. The first and most important step in back control is the over-under, also known as the seatbelt. One arm over is your choking arm, one arm under. This is the ultimate control. This is the first step. There's total back control is when you have the over-under and you have your hooks in. But the first step is definitely not getting your hooks in. If your opponent's back is exposed and you try to put the legs in first, by the time you get one leg hook in, he's going to be gone, long gone. You only have a split second where your opponent's back is going to be exposed. So, a stab jumping on the over-under here keeps his back exposed. You become a human backpack. The goal is to squeeze into his chest as hard as you can. The ball and socket grip here, this is the best. I used to do gable grip here, but Marcelo Garcia, who's the king at attacking the back, holds like this, and it makes sense. Because if your opponent tries to peel those arms off, a lot of times it's the non-choking arm, and that makes room for the choking arm to reach up and grab the shoulder. So again, when you're attacking the back, that first step is the over-under. If you go in double under here, this works great with the gi because you can grab his collar here and the control's pretty damn good. But in no gi, if your first step is the double under, he can threaten you with a kimura. And I mean, you're on his back and now you have to worry about a submission. Or he can also roll for a knee bar. Where here, he rolls for a knee bar or just rolls the freedom. The first step should never be double under here. If you can't reach the over under, yeah, then maybe if you're low and that's all you can reach is the double under, but as soon as you can, you gotta throw that over under on top. The leg hooks are never the first step. They're always the second, third, fourth, fifth step.
So really, when mastering back control and mastering the rear naked choke, it's all about over-under setups. The setups are having your opponent's back exposed just long enough to get that over-under. You'll get the leg hooks later in the scramble, in the roll. The most important thing is the upper body control and becoming a human backpack. You only have a split second to make something happen. All the high-level guys in jiu-jitsu, as soon as their back's exposed, they know their back's exposed, they're going to turn into you. So you have a split second to make something happen. So really, all back attacks are really over-under setups. How many transitions, how many setups do you have to get to the over-under? Because once you're here, now it's like first and goal on the 10-yard line. You're in a really good scoring position. This is a dead zone. This is most elite grapplers' favorite dead zone. My personal favorite is spiderweb, but out of the four. But most people would say the back is the best, and arguably it is. So we're going to go over all the different transitions to the over-under, which leads to a rear naked choke or rear naked choke defense. So it's all about setting up your opponent to expose his back for a little second so you could jump on that over-under from different angles. So now that we established the over-under, the next step is to get to control them, squeeze them until we get the hooks in. Once we get the hooks in, then the basic steps into getting the rear naked choke is my left arm is the choking arm. So my underarm is going to hand fight, is going to make this a one-on-one battle. He has both hands on my choking arm, which is what he's supposed to do. So I want to make it a one-on-one battle. I want to be able to peel his right arm off. This is a hand fight here. This needs to be developed. This needs to be strong. So it's one-on-one here. And as I'm battling his right arm here, this hand is creeping up and grabbing onto the shoulder, trying to get under his chin. If he frees that hand, we're going to be battling. He's trying to bring the hand back. He tries to swing it around. I'm battling. As I'm battling here, this slowly gets deeper and deeper. And then once I'm at the point where I can grab the back of his shoulder, then I put in the rear naked choke. A lot of people like to do the rear naked choke with the hand behind the head. I don't find this very effective. All the great rear naked choke masters, Marcelo Garcia included, this hand is hidden. It's like you're slicing off his head. My head is basically parallel to his. And again, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm slicing off his head here. Nice figure four. My wrist is under my chin, and I'm pressing my head against his head. There's no way he could reach back. He wants to pull this arm off. So we want to hide it. Gotta look just like this. Some people do this. This is not good. It can work sometimes. Head's too high. Too much space in between both our heads. We want to be nice and tight. I'll squeeze right here. So we get the over-under from any of many different transitions. We got our opponent's back exposed. We put the over-under. We maneuvered him around. We got the hooks in. A lot of different ways to do that, but we're just focusing on the rear naked choke here, all right? He's leg pressing, he's pushing back here. We got our hooks in. The hand fight is so important here. Being able to develop a powerful hand fight here. Peeling this off. If you can't peel this hand off, if you can't peel it off, he's got both hands on the choking arm. There's really nothing you can do here. You must develop a hand fight, making it one-on-one as you're climbing up his shoulder. Then from here, quickly bring your right arm up and around, and we squeeze. Developing an anaconda-like squeeze is huge. One way you can practice is you can practice on your knees. Whoever has the strongest squeeze has the best rear naked choke. Marcelo Garcia's rear naked choke is the best. He has the most powerful squeeze. The way to develop your squeeze on your own, you're sitting there watching TV, you're on your computer, you can choke out your knee here. Just wrap your arm around your knee, and like you're slicing off the top of your knee here. My wrist is under my chin, and we're squeezing. You can work both sides. It's gonna hurt your forearm. You want it to hurt your forearm. That's when you know you're squeezing hard enough. And try to hold it for 10 seconds. Your bicep's gonna squeeze, your knee bone is just driving into your forearm and your bicep. But that's how you develop the squeeze. You can also develop it a less painful way by just going around your leg here. It's not as painful. And then you squeeze. It doesn't really hurt your arms as much. It's just muscle. But you can still work on your squeeze. The painful way is the best way because you know you're doing it right. Again, the basic principles of attacking the back. Got to get that over-under. Eventually get your hooks in. Develop a powerful hand fight. No matter what this arm's doing, he tries to swing it back. We're battling it, controlling it. Sink the arm in as deep as possible. Climb on the shoulder. Quickly remove the right hand. It's a basic rear naked choke attack. When attacking the back, I prefer the anaconda as opposed to just the hooks. I like the anaconda, aka body triangle, because I get to squeeze my opponent's stomach. It's harder for them to spin out into my guard. And it creates a couple different submissions of their own that aren't really related too closely to the rear naked choke. They're quite different. The first we have to develop the ability to put on the anaconda lightning quick. At first, you're gonna have to use your hands, some of you guys, until you put on enough anacondas where they just come on by themselves. Over the ankle, toes up, not like this. You want the figure four on top if your opponent's on his side. He knows that, so he might try to switch to the other side. You have to be really quick and switch in a flash. He switches back to the other side. You gotta be able to switch. He switches again. You gotta be able to switch. If he switches and you don't switch here, it's not over, but there are footlocks that you can get caught in. That figure four, combined with the weight of his body on the ground, can create a footlock. If you have weak ankles, you can get caught. I've been caught a couple times like this. So generally, for the most part, you want the figure four on top. Now, there are a couple submissions that are based on the squeeze and the power of the anaconda. And for me, personally, when I'm on my left side, I like to go to the Iron Sheik. When I'm on my right side, I like to go to the Dan 7. So first we're gonna show the Iron Sheik. And it doesn't matter, I could do the Iron Sheik on the other side, I could do the Dan 7 on this side. It's just a thing that I developed. If I'm on this side, I'm going Iron Sheik. What's great about the Iron Sheik is if you can't get under his chin for the rear naked choke, Iron Sheik, you don't need to be under his chin. As a matter of fact, you don't need to be anywhere near his chin. All right, the move here is being able to use this anaconda to sweep him forward so he lands face first. So the first move from here, I'm going to get up on my elbow, create some space so that I can create some momentum. I'm just gonna wrap around his forehead, push up on the mat, swing my hips, thrust forward, get him flat on his face, and I'm gonna put all my weight on him, grab his forehead, and pull him up. One of my personal favorite submissions from back control is called the Dan 7.
Now, I'm on his back. I have him on his side. I get him on his side, and I got the anaconda here. He goes to the other side. I do the conda switch. And remember, if I'm on this side, I like hitting iron cheeks. But you can hit the Dan 7 from this side, but I like to hit the Dan 7 from when I'm laying on my right side. If he tries to switch it over and catch my figure 4 in the bottom here, I switch again. Now, I want to keep him on this side because the Dan 7, super high percentage. If you've mastered the squeeze and you've mastered the torque and the neck crank that it is. So from here, rear naked choke is not working. He's defending too well. I can have him on his side. Now I want to bring both my arms out, just like the Iron Sheik. I'm free here. He doesn't have me. He's T-Rexing. I can get up on my elbow, and instead of wrapping around his forehead and thrusting him up and trying to get him face down, all I'm going to do is just wrap my arm around his neck or his jaw or whatever as he's defending. I'm on my elbow. I put a gable grip on, and now I squeeze the anaconda as hard as I can. I collapse forward and squeeze. If that doesn't work, then I sit back and torque the neck. I'm on his back. If he's on his left side, I'm going to put an anaconda on and go for the Iron Sheik. If he's on the other side, I'm going for a Dan 7. They both start off the same. I freed my arms here. I gave up on the rear naked choke. Got the anaconda in, and now we're on our side. I'm just going to wrap around his head, put a gable grip on, collapse forward and squeeze that anaconda, squeeze here, and we can tap. He can tap here. If he doesn't tap, then we pull him back and twist his chin and jaw, just crank up. This deep hook transition to spider web comes from back control when you're on your back and he's leg pressing. Very hard to get a rear naked choke if he's pushing back and putting pressure on you. So we must transition to spider web from here. Nothing else is working. We can't get him on a side to hit an Iron Sheik or a Dan 7. So from here, the first thing I got to do is once I abort the rear naked choke, I go back to over-under control. Extend my hooks. We want them as low as possible. Remember, we're transitioning to spider web, so we're looking for the opportunity to get that deep left hook in. All right, so we got to keep them as low as possible because the first move is locking his left shoulder. Bringing this up, locking the left shoulder, locking the side of the over. My left is the over. We're trying to get his left arm out of the mix. Then I cross my feet here and do leg curls into his chest. I'm not trying to do a leg curl over his right arm, just over his left arm. And I rock him forward. Pull the left arm out base. I'm doing leg curls into that left arm. Now slowly, we're turning this into spider web. I switch the hooks here, hook the leg here, and then get into perfect spider web. We got the over-under, we're on his back. He's leg pressing, he's doing a great job defending the rear naked choke. So I decide to abort, so I need that control initially here. So I go back to the over-under control, squeezing up tight, up nice and high. Extend my hooks to keep him low. The lower he is, the easier it is to get this left shoulder hooked. Then I cross my feet, doing leg curls, smashing into his chest, not down towards his hips, into his chest, into me, doing leg curls. Swing him forward, pull out my left arm. The under turns into a hook, just to control that hook. And then before we pull this hook out, we insert the deep left hook, leaving no windows, reach for the hip, hook the leg. Now we're here ready to attack. Arm crush, arm bar, douchebag, it's all there. This deep hook transition to spider web is probably the easiest one, yet it's probably one of the most important as well. Very common position where I have his back here, got both my hooks in. I can transition to the truck, we already went over that, but we can also transition to spider web, which again,
in my opinion, is the most dangerous position of all the dead zones. So from here, remember the deep hook is the most important thing. So we're gonna release the over-under control, put the deep hook in, nice and deep, and we go to a swim move. Shin on behind his neck, push his head through, and we end up in spiderweb. Very basic, yet very, very important. I'm on his back. There's 30 seconds to go. You see this in MMA a lot. Dudes are punching, guys are defending. The bell's gonna ring pretty soon. You might get knocked out in the next round on your feet when you could have ended it right here. So you must have options from failed back position, whether it's transitioning to the truck or transitioning to spiderweb. Deep hook embrace, again, so you don't face plant. Shin behind the neck, flip him over, catch his leg, perfect spiderweb. He's not going anywhere. I'm not thinking about the submission. I'm thinking about controlling him and keeping him on his back. As my twister got more and more developed, my opponents, when caught in twister side, would often lay their legs straight down and let me mount them because they knew they had a better chance at escaping my mount than the truck. That's when I decided, in order to become a complete jiu-jitsu fighter, I had to make them pay for allowing me to mount them so easily by mastering the mount. So again, with the help of my master, Jean-Jacques Machado, I decided to break down the no-gi mount to the molecular level. When mounting from twister side control, generally my first mission is to control the mount. So whether we're using the tiptoe mount or the gallop mount from twister side control, my first goal at this point is to control. So I like to cross my ankles under his ass and base out just from the initial explosion. Right when you mount, that's when most jiu-jitsu players will explode. So I wanted to mount, stabilize the mount just for a second by skydiving. Call this position skydiving. It's nothing new, just didn't have a name. There's a big difference between this kind of mount and this kind of mount. It's not the same thing. So this mount here, I call skydiving. And we only want to skydive for a second. We don't want both his arms free for very long. When we're in the mount, I want to take away one arm. This is the main goal. Take away one arm. Head and arm position right here. If I take away this arm, it takes away one of his best escapes, which is both hands on the hips and bumping me up and getting me back into guard. So as long as I'm fighting and I'm digging and I'm for this elbow, while I'm in skydive, I'm in good shape here. He can still upa, he can still explode if I don't have my balance together. He can still roll me, but the hip escape is gone. Right, so from here, I don't leave skydive, meaning I don't uncross my feet until I can get his arm jammed up. And once his arm is jammed up here, this can lead to a lot of things. But the main thing that it's leading to is the arm triangle, which ends up looking like this. I need to develop the power and the skill to drive this elbow up. It leads to arm triangles and it could lead to a lot of different things, all right? So this is not a good position for him. It's never good to have your arm here. Some people get claustrophobic. I get claustrophobic here. So I'm mounting, I'm skydiving, and immediately I'm taking one arm out of the mix. And from here, he's gonna be resisting, and I'm trying to jam his arm up. So I'm trying not to slide off his elbow over the top. I'm trying to come out as wide as possible. I'm walking my fingers on a mat until I get to head and armpit control, because I'm grabbing his head and I'm grabbing his armpit. This is head and arm control. This is head and armpit control. Head and armpit controls, I'm pinning his arm against his head. And once I got this far, then the arm triangle is not that far away. I'm controlling his head, pinning it to his stomach. Now I'm bringing my chin over his elbow. because I'm gonna have to let go of his head for a second. So I need as much pressure on his arm to keep it there as possible when I let go of his head. As soon as I let go of his head, I wanna palm strike his arm to keep it in there, drive my head down, and now I'm gonna gable grip and my head's on the mat. This is the chopping block. The arm triangle's almost done. I like to stay here, wear him out, break his soul. I don't like to squeeze too soon. I like to hang out and relax. I'll even bring my legs over here and just lay down here and relax. But when I'm ready to go, I want to put my knee on his belly. I want to get my right foot in a track stance. I don't want to do this or that. It's nice and base, driving my head into his head. Cinch up the rear naked choke or the figure four, and now I'm going to twist counterclockwise and down into his shoulder and kick my left leg, kicking his hip, twisting it. If he's answering the telephone, which is a very popular defense, the best way to get that hand off his ear is the caterpillar. We used to do the hang up.
Yeah.
Hang up's not nearly as effective as the caterpillar. This is a new move. You take your fingers and just creep them under his hand, and it just peels his hand right off his ear, right off his head, and takes away his defense. Right, so we're in the arm triangle here. It's nice and tight. I'm twisting down into his right shoulder and squeezing, kicking his hip, stretching his body like this, and squeezing his neck. Right, we're here. Once we decide to leave the chopping block, a lot of guys finish arm triangles like this, and it's very effective. They don't even figure four their arms. But if you're doing an arm triangle from half guard on the bottom, where you don't have your weight on top of you, there's no way the gable grip is going to work. You have to figure four it. So that tells me that that's the most powerful squeeze. So on top, when you don't always need the figure four, you can get away with the head on, with just the gable grip. Doesn't mean it's the best. Just means you can get away with it. I personally think that the figure four is the best, and usually most of my arm triangles are done with the figure four. There's a couple of different variations to the arm triangle that I like to use. The first one usually works. Very high percentage right here. But sometimes I gotta drive my knee into his chest, right under his neck. That's the impaler. That usually seals the deal. So for some reason he's not tapping here. Some guys are really hard to choke. You need to sprinkle in some pain. So if you have short enough legs and you're flexible, you can pull this off. Guys with real long legs are going to have a hard time pulling this one off. Once I'm here and I'm squeezing and it's not enough, I'm going to take my left knee and just drive it into the top of his chest and just squeeze down. That usually does the trick. You do compromise your base a little, and you could get rolled, but if you do it fast enough, the pain is usually enough to get a quick tap. Again, we're here. The standard arm triangle is not working. So in a flash, you bring in your right foot to base and drive your left knee right into his throat. Another variation. We got we're driving our knee into his stomach. We can also twist him a different way. I'm twisting down with my left elbow into his right shoulder. But if you can put your foot right here, you can twist even more. This ain't working. I'm gonna drive my knee down more, like close to the ground, bring this foot right into his hip, and then twist. That one's called the chimp. So there's the arm triangle, the impaler, and the last one is the chimp. We're back in the mount, we're skydiving, we're trying to get a hold, we're trying to control this arm. Sometimes we have a hard time controlling the arm. Sometimes we can just grab the wrist here and pin it down. This is the best way to control the wrist from the mount.
This way, there's no control. He can get out of that really easy. But it leads right into a Kimura. You sacrifice control, but it leads directly into a Kimura. Here, this is the best control, but there's really no arm lock from this position. It's just the ultimate control. We're leaning into this control. My left arm is wrapped around his head. The best submission from this position here is setting up a triangle. And you need some flexibility to set it up this way. This is called the slow triangle. And once I can control his arm out here and pin it to the ground, now I'm gonna release skydive, drive, slide my left knee as high as possible. Now the arm that's around the neck, I'm gonna reach for my foot here. The best thing to do is swing it through and catch your ankle here and wrap it around his head for a triangle. But sometimes, if you have some flexibility issues, you're pinning his wrist down, you're controlling it, and you crawl your feet up nice and slow, and then you wrap it around his head. That's why I call it slow triangle, because you can do it really slow. It's best fast, but if you have the proper wrist control, you can do it slow and methodically. Again, we're in skydive. We're trying to trap his arm up here. We're able to pin his arm down. He can't get his arm back. We leave skydive. We get nice high in the mount now. My left knee, this is the gangster lean here. I'm leaning to my left, controlling his wrist, leaning to my left. I'm in no danger of getting rolled this way because I have his wrist controlled. If I didn't control his wrist here, then he would sweep me, reverse me easily and get on top. So you must dominate this wrist, bring this foot up. As soon as you can grab that ankle, you wrap it around his neck, pull up on his head, we have a triangle. From the mounted triangle, or this particular version of the mounted triangle, the slow triangle, there's other ways you could submit him while caught in the triangle here. The first way, if he's not tapping from the choke, is just simply by just taking this arm and just a basic arm bar from the mount, from the mounted triangle. You can also take this arm and hit an Americana here. If he straightens it and escapes, then we have an inverted arm bar here. So from this triangle, no matter how you got that, maybe you hit a pop triangle from the mount, or you did the slow triangle from the mount. If he's not tapping from the choke, we can attack his arms here. Slow arm bar, slow Americana, and inverted arm bar here. This deep hook transition to spiderweb comes off the mount, off the failed slow triangle attempt. I'm here in the gangster lean, and if I really want this triangle, it's important for me to keep his right arm out of the mix. Keep it on the outside, but sometimes they can squeeze it through to defend that arm. He brings it through, he's trying to defend. So I deep hook it, pull the arm up. Second most important piece of the puzzle here, deep hook the leg before I sit down and then cross my feet. Now we're in perfect spiderweb. A new way to submit your opponent from spiderweb that isn't in Mastering the Twister, the book, is the douchebag. From here, maybe the arm triangle's not working. Every time I go for it, he lifts his arms up high and blocks. If I can get my outside foot right into his neck and I push down, and as I'm pulling on his arm, that arm pops out. Again, don't ever let go of that leg, and you're arm barring him with one arm here. The inside of your elbow on his wrist. Squeezing your legs together, thrusting your hips up. We're in the gangster lean, thinking about a triangle. He slips his arm through. There's that deep hook. Grab that deep hook, pull this arm up. I'm in S mount, and before I sit back, hook that leg, sit back, perfect spiderweb. Douchebag. Also, in the same position, this is one of those rare times where the deep hook is not the first step. Hooking the leg is the first step. I'm in gangster lean here, possibly going for a slow triangle. Now he uses his leg to unhook my hand. If I don't react right, it's gonna work. And then he might retract his arm, and now I can't get it back to where I need it. So when I'm here, when he brings up that leg, I'm gonna trap that leg, S-grip my hands together. He's in a cradle position here. Now I have that leg under control. And from here, I'm gonna make some room so he gets his arm through. That's gonna be his natural reaction. Perfect for my deep hook. Sit back, I already have the leg. Now we're in spider web again. Deep hook, reaching for my hip, controlling the leg, crossing the feet. One more time. I'm in gangster lean here. He tries to unhook with his leg, and I catch it. Sometimes you have to put an S-grip together. His arm slips through because I create the space. Deep hook, sit back. Now we're in spider web. This transition comes from the mount when your opponent bridges over either shoulder, and in this case, he's gonna bridge over the left shoulder. The first step is the deep hook and brace so I don't face plant. So the reaction you need to develop here is whichever way he goes, you gotta put a deep hook in and brace. So he goes deep hook, brace, shin behind the neck. I'm on my left shoulder, push his head through with my shin, pull him over, and we end up in spider web. Again, we're here in the mount. He bridges, deep hook, brace, shin behind the neck, which pushes his head through. I grab his ankles or his foot, flip him over, right into perfect spider web. And before he hits the ground, I'm already hooking that leg. This deep hook transition to spider web comes off the traditional and very basic Americana attempt. If I'm going for an Americana here, going for a key lock Americana, and he slips his right arm through, another perfect opportunity to change it to a deep hook, S-mount, hook the leg, and sit back for perfect spider web. You can legitimately be going for the Americana, and then the deep hook presents itself, or you could use the Americana attempt to bait him into giving you the deep hook. So here, we're working for the basic Americana. He brings his arm through, deep hook the leg, sit back. We're in spider web again. This next transition to the back, or over-under control, is from three-quarter mount. Three-quarter mount, here's full mount. Three-quarter mount is when he has my foot trapped. In this position, we have a chance. As long as he's not clinched onto us, he's clinched onto us, we cannot transition to the back. We have to make it so that he's T-Rex. So he's trying to push us off. Maybe we're trying to smash him. He thinks we're trying to mount, but really, we don't want to mount. We want to go to the back. So as I'm squeezing him here, not giving it away, I'm going to figure four my legs. And when I'm ready to go, I push off, roll right to an over-under. To hand fight, to rear naked choke. And a lot of times, I like to not just keep the hooks in. If you have the opportunity to put an anaconda in, also known as a body triangle, I like to call it the anaconda, this is even better. Some people don't have the flexibility to get their legs in this position around their opponent's body. You can work on it. I used to have a lot of trouble, did it so much that now, at first, you might have to use your hands to cinch it up. Keep using your hands until one day you're not going to need to. And you want to go over the ankle, toes up. You don't want to be like this. This is not good. Over the ankle, toes up. Squeeze those knees together. And from here, makes the hand fight a little easier, makes the choke a little easier. And if you're going no-gi or MMA, no one's wearing shirts, it's all sweaty.
If you just use the regular hooks, it's a lot easier for him to slip and spin into your guard. So that's why I prefer the anaconda. Marcelo Garcia doesn't like the anaconda, and he doesn't seem to have a problem getting rear naked choke, so obviously the anaconda is not important. I like it, I prefer. Jean-Jacques, if you look at his Abu Dhabi matches back in 99 and 2000, he used the anaconda all the time, just so guys wouldn't go from being under a rear naked choke attack to spinning, and now they're in your guard. So, again, we're in the mount, and either you gave him that foot because you wanted to bait him into a samurai, or he took it on his own. Either way, we have an opportunity we could try to pass and just try to pass again and try to remount, or without him smelling it out, we figure four our legs. Don't give it away. Don't look back as you're figure four on your legs. Then he's going to clinch onto you and you're not going to be able to go anywhere. You got to do it really fast. Figure four the legs, and you got to bolt right to an over-under. Always jumping on those over-unders. We're going to put on the anaconda, over the ankle, toes up, hand fight, and as we're ready to go, squeeze that anaconda and squeeze the rear naked choke. One more time, real time. We're in the mount. Foot. Over the years, my mount has developed into an unorthodox rubber guard type mount that I like to call the monkey mount. And since the book, a lot of additions have been made, especially the mono mount, which I got from Marcelo Garcia. We're doing a lot of upside down rubber guard stuff, straight jacket, special K, local plata for the mount as well. To set it up from the mount, again, we're starting in skydive. We're getting a head and arm here. And we're driving the arm up, crawling it up, pinning the arm to his head. We can transition to arm triangle, or we can crawl up and swing our right leg over into S mount here. Once we're here, we can lean forward, sit back, bring our left foot over his face, and here we are. Now we're in mono control here. We can do a lot of things from here. We can do a mono mount, which is keeping this arm trapped, just like upside down rubber guard. We got to keep this arm trapped. If his arm escapes, then we're forced to go to spider web, which isn't that bad, but he can be finished here. I'm on my elbow, making sure this arm is trapped. The mono mount is using my right hand and grabbing his elbow and pulling it up and lifting up my left knee as well. Notice I'm figure fouring my legs and my right foot is under his armpit. Very important here in this control. We can also go to the straight jacket from here. If I can control his wrist here and shove my left foot into his armpit, both hands on the wrist, I can stomp on my foot, pulling on his arm. It's a straight jacket. I can also, if his shoulder's really flexible and we can't get him to tap here, if I have the right flexibility, I can cross my feet over his head and pull his arm up for the special K. We can also wrap our arm around his head and work the classic gogo plata here. If he defends here, we can control that wrist and go to the local plata here. And we also have an inverted arm bar here. Submissions in the mount in no-gi jiu-jitsu, not MMA, and no-gi jiu-jitsu are a lot harder than in MMA. Because in no-gi jiu-jitsu, all you have to do is T-Rex. You're not worried about anybody punching your face. You just keep your elbows tight, and if you can stay here and be immovable, there are no submissions. But in MMA, all you have to do is start throwing punches and the elbows come up.
Yes, he's blocking punches, but he's open for arm triangles here. Arm triangles are very hard to get. You know, you got to drive the elbow up and you got to pin them down. It's a slow, methodical move in non-striking grappling. But when there's punches, as soon as you throw punches down, his arms are ready to go right into an arm triangle. Also, his arms go up to clear transition to spiderweb. In grappling without punches, it's hard to transition to spiderweb. You can't get that deep hook in unless his arm's here. Now you can get this deep hook in to attack the arm. You hook the leg and you sit back. Sorry. So when there's strikes, transitions to the arm triangle and to spiderweb are so much easier. Way easier than pure no-gi grappling. Again, arm triangle and spiderweb. The most dangerous dominant position or dead zone in all of jiu-jitsu, to me, is spiderweb. Although the back, the truck, and the mount positions are all excellent, to me, when done properly, when done the 10th planet way, spiderweb is the hardest to defend. The biggest difference between the 10th planet way of playing spiderweb and the traditional way of playing spiderweb is mainly the philosophy. Most jiu-jitsu fighters look for the submission in the transition to spiderweb, when I look for the ultimate control in the transition. Obtaining perfect spiderweb control is the main goal here. The traditional way of playing spiderweb is attacking the right arm. In this case, if I was on the other side, I'd be attacking his left arm. But if I'm on this side and I'm playing traditional spiderweb, I'm attacking his right arm with my right arm and basing out here. And sometimes you cross the feet, sometimes it looks just like this. It's effective and it works. It's better with the gi. Without the gi, you don't see it too much in MMA. You don't see it that often. You don't see anybody dominating from this position in MMA too much. The main reason is because when you attack like this, you're allowing your opponent's legs to be free to swing around and get on top or spin away, get on top this way, or spin away. Legs are free to do whatever they want. It's not that effective. Perfect spiderweb control is attacking the right arm with the left arm, the deep left hook, as deep as possible. This is not a deep left hook. The inside of your elbow's got to be touching the inside of his elbow, and you're reaching for your hip. This is the most important piece of spiderweb. The leg over the face and crossing the ankles, you can do that later. If you don't have this deep hook, you don't have anything. The deep hook is the most important thing in all the transitions to spiderweb. If you can't put that deep left hook in, he's gone. I can't put that in there. He's just going to suck his elbow and spin, and his elbow's going to hit the ground. You must reach for that hip. If you can grab your shorts or your pants, that's the best. Very hard for him to escape. Now, of course, crossing the ankles with the outside ankle on the bottom and doing leg curls, that's also important. But the second most important thing, that's third. The second most important thing is controlling the legs here. Making it so he can't get on top of you and stack you. You're on top of him. He should stay on his back. If you're controlling his legs, he can't spin away from you. He can't corkscrew out. And doing leg curls and crossing your ankles keeps them from corkscrewing out. So there's double insurance. You got this and you got this. This is perfect spiderweb. He's not going anywhere. And from here, I covered all the breaks from here. It's good to learn 5, 6, 7, master 8,
different ways to make him tap from this position. My favorite is the arm crush from here. Because at this position, the last thing he wants to do is extend his arm. He's doing everything he can to contract his arm. But when we throw an arm crush on top of him, I bring my right leg over, figure four my legs and go under his ankle. Now that's the last thing he wants to do is keep his arm bent. He wants to straighten out or he's gonna tap. And again, I don't let go of the legs at all, ever. There's no way he could spin out. And either I'm gonna squeeze my knees together and tap him by twisting towards my left and karate chopping through my leg. If the arm pops out, I'm gonna continue to hold the leg and just bring my left leg over his face. This isn't the best control of his body, but as long as you have control of his legs, you arm bar him with one arm here. It's very important to learn how to control and arm bar your opponent with one arm, with the inside of your elbow right here, controlling the legs. If you let go of the legs, he can spin free, and he's out. Perfect spider web is always controlling those legs, maintaining the position, controlling the position. If we're going to spider web here, say we're in MMA, we're doing the smashing web, slide up to S mount, deep hook is the most important thing. Second most important thing, go grab that leg before you sit back, because he's already trying to sit up. But we grab the leg, swing him back. We don't have the submission. We might not get the submission for another minute or two. It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna control him here. We just wanna control him, and then we throw on an arm crush, tap him here, he pops his arm out, and then we're here. This deep hook transition in spiderweb starts from the gangster lean. We're at a gangster lean, we're trying to set up a slow triangle perhaps, and he manages to get his right arm through to defend. He brings his right arm through, we abandon the slow triangle, and we immediately put that deep hook in. It's right there staring at us in the face. We pull that arm up, wrap my right leg around his shoulder in the S mount, and before our ass hits the ground, we're already hugging the leg. So it's deep hook, hug the leg, sit down, cross your ankles. We're in perfect spider web, ready to attack. Arm crush, arm bar, triangle. Again. We're in the gangster lean, we're pinning his wrist down. I'm trying to keep his right arm out of the mix. I want that triangle, but he slips through. Or sometimes I could just let him slip through because I want to go to spider web. He slips through to defend this arm. I stick the deep hook in, lift that wrist up. I'm an S mount, hook the leg before I sit back to prevent the scramble. And now I'm in spider web. A new way to break, to tap him from spider web that I didn't have in the Mastering the Twister book is the douchebag. This one here, same thing. You don't ever let go of the leg, but now all I'm doing is putting my foot right on his neck, pushing it, and extending the arm, and the arm pops right out. Very high percentage move. We're going to start with the very basic transition from the back. He's going to get on his elbows or on his back. Very common position in MMA, in jiu-jitsu. Most people would want to stay on the back and work for the rear naked choke. But if time's running out, you got a minute left, you might want to think about different transitions. We can transition the spider web here, the other dead zone, or we can transition to the truck. If you're on someone's back here, you can be on his back on top of him, or you could be on his back and he's on top of you. First transition is on his back when you're on top. He's defending the rear naked choke. He's got great defense. So the first move here in transitioning to the truck is a close cousin of the back. Instead of 2 hooks, we have 1 hook, nice and deep. And we're at a right angle now, all right? This is the first transition that I teach people when I'm teaching the twister. Very, very important to master this one. We're on his back. We have an over-under. We decide to transition, pull the right leg hook out, spin. All your weight is on the small of his back, both hands on his ankles here, or we can come through here and grab D'Souza control. As I rotated, I stuck my left hook as deep as possible and over his ankle on this side. So we got the over-under, we're aborting the back. Remove your right hook, sink your left hook in as deep as possible, and now we're at a 90-degree angle. I'm gonna grab his ankles with both hands and pull him back in. Now he's in the truck. Anytime we're in the truck, we must control, we have a lockdown here with the legs, and we must control his free leg and his free arm at all times. If we lose control of the free leg or the free arm, he spins out to freedom, and now he's on top in top half. All right, so as we make that transition to the truck, and there's gonna be many transitions into the truck, we must control the free leg or the free arm, or he will spin to freedom. Over under, remove the right hook, sink the left hook nice and deep, both hands controlling the ankle, pull him on top of us. Lock the legs down, control them. We can also figure 4 the legs and squeeze the knees together here. This is good control here as well. Controlling this foot at the toes is the best. Always controlling the toes. If you control the ankle, he can put a boot on and kick free. And then we're wrestling with this foot here. All right, so we're controlling the toes, controlling the ankle here. We're in the truck thinking about what submission we're gonna go for first. One more time. I'm on his back. We got the over-under. Keep my weight on his body. I'm not slipping off. I'm not doing this and then sitting up and grabbing the ankle. He'll be gone. You have to shift your body weight on the small of his back. So we're here. Pull him back into the truck. Control the toes. Now we're ready to attack. Or transition to the back. And then from there, maybe to spiderweb. But the goal is to get to the truck here. The next transition to the truck that we'll be going over is called the Chevy. Now in this transition, you're on your opponent's back, but he's on top of you. Very common position here. Again, when you're on your opponent's back, you want to try to get that rear naked choke, but some people have really good rear naked choke defense. You might have a minute to go. It's very important to transition to either spiderweb or the truck in this position once you decided to abort the rear naked choke. So the first thing I do when he's leg pressing right now, this is very good defense. He's pushing back, his quads are strong. I'm fighting for the rear naked choke, he's controlling my wrist. Once I decide to abort the rear naked choke and transition to the truck, it's very important that you reestablish the over-under control. Left over, right under. If I decided to transition to the truck going this way, I would have to go right over, left under, just to control his upper body here. I like to go this way. I like to choke my opponent with my left arm. Marcelo Garcia likes to choke everybody with his right arm. You could do both, you could do one, it really doesn't matter. Once I decide to abort the rear naked choke, getting to the truck is all about getting my left hook as deep as possible on his left leg. That's the transition. So, like when I was on his back, on all fours, I removed my right leg hook and spun on the small of his back. In this position, it's the same thing, but now I'm on my back and he's got his weight on me. I still remove the right hook, but now I need to insert my butterfly in the back of his knee here. Keep your leg up. Here. This is going to elevate him. I'm going to sweep him to my left and at the same time squeeze his upper body control and pull him on top of me so that I can get this left hook as deep as possible. So I remove the right hook, butterfly sweep him to my left, and at the same time lift him on top of me and sink my left hook deep. From here, I lock the legs down. I could also keep them in a tight figure four, squeezing the knees together. Lockdown's a little better. From here, now I need to slowly make my way to the truck. And again, rule number one in the truck, never lose control of his free arm or free leg, or he simply spins to safety and he's on top. And then from here, the under turns into an underhook here. He might be holding onto your wrist, and it could take you a while to pull your wrist free. He thinks he's defending the rear naked choke, but really, he doesn't really know you gave up the rear naked choke, so it could take a while to pull that arm out. Once we're here, the transition is simple. As long as we hold on to keep hooking his free arm or free leg, keeps him from spinning away to freedom, and now we're here at the truck. Again, lock of the leg down here, or figure four, squeezing the knees together. And then from here, we attack. We're in this position, very common position. If I can't shuck this arm off my leg, it's not gonna work. I have to hold on and sprawl and force him to one leg. And his head needs to be on the outside. If he can get his head on the inside, he can take me down. He could posture up and cause a lot of problems. So I need to stay tight with my left thigh into his left shoulder, making it hard for him to get his head on the inside. As soon as I split his legs here, he's done. Pull him on top. We're in the truck. And again, his left arm is useless. This transition to the truck is probably the most complex transition to the truck in the system. It comes from passing the guard. And if you're passing underneath, you manage to get lower than him and you got his hips up and you're taking him over, and people, there's a very high percentage pass, usually you push through and you go side to side control. A lot of traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu players, as soon as they realize that they can't get their hips back on the mat, they'll roll as quickly as they can over the shoulder and reclaim guard. Very common transition. It's a great pass, but has a great counter as well. The key to getting to the truck in this position is anticipating his escape, anticipating his transition back, doing a back roll over his left shoulder into guard. So as soon as we recognize that, we lift his hips. As soon as we recognize he's bailing and trying to put us back in the guard, we put all our weight and we stuff him here. And this is basically, it looks like the beginning of the muffle or the wrestler. Then two transitions from here. Either, again, once we're in this transition, we're sticking our left knee in, just like the muffle, just like the wrestler, and we could grab his left foot or his right foot with my left hand, my right hand on the mat, and roll into the truck. Or we get under his hips, lift him up, elevate him, control here, drive my left knee in, or pull him back into the truck. This transition to the twister requires some flexibility and works very well against jiu-jitsu players or judo players that like to play judo side control. And judo side control is when your opponent on top is facing you here. And what's this called in Japanese?
Keisugatame.
Keisugatame. I always get those Japanese names all mixed up. All right, so again, this very dominating position here, very good control. My goal here remember, in transitioning to the truck or to the twister, my left leg needs to hook his left leg. So in this position, my left leg is here, but it's not close enough. I need to get my right elbow on the mat here. Once I get it on the mat and I can turn my body and I'm on my side, I'll get the angle to hook. And again, flexibility is necessary to get that foot in. Once I get that hook in, if I just leave it there, he can easily unhook it. So once I hook this here, I need to cross my feet and lock it down. Even if you can't get the lockdown, as long as you can cross your feet, he's done here. He's already in a twister. I could finish him here in the twister, or I could just tilt him back and finish the twister off here. Again, the longer your legs and the more flexible they are, the easier this transition is. It's a dominating position against people that aren't flexible and don't know this transition. A lot of people go to it. You can get caught in headlocks here as well. You can do a headlock here, or if he has the underhook, there's arm bars here you can get caught with here. A lot of different things here. The most important thing is freeing your elbow, bringing your elbow to the mat, being able to hook this leg and cross your feet. Once the feet are crossed, it's over. At this point, again, you can finish the twister from this position here, or you can rock them back and finish it here. It's over. One more time. Either way, if he has the underhook, or if he just has the head control here. If he has just the head and he's working for the side headlock, you can still hook this up, but when you get down to here, you're not really in the twister. You might lose the arm, then he's gonna put a grip together, and then we back here at the truck. Again, if he just has your head, which is a popular wrestling control position, if I'm able to hook that far leg and lock it down, once I bring him back down here, he's probably gonna make it difficult to transition to the twister. He's gonna T-Rex and get his grip together. Then we just do the normal transition to the truck. Or, if he just has the head, you can just transition. As soon as we lose this arm, transition to the back. If he has the underhook, it's an automatic twister. Your elbow to the ground, you hook that leg, it's over. We're in the twister. No underhook, just the head. Either the back or we're at the truck.